Hello and welcome to the Timeshift. I'm Chris Hall, and this week we're looking at the latest episode of Doctor Who entitled Resolution. Ooh. Now, because this video is going to be a review of that aforementioned episode, this video is going to be spoiler heavy. So if you don't want this episode spoiled for you for whatever reason, it's best to switch this video off now to avoid any spoilers. But for the rest of us, let us dive headfirst into Resolution. Woo! Yes, I look scruffy and ill-kempt or unkempt or whatever the term is going to be, but it's been New Year and I'm rather tired because I've not been sleeping well as a result of that either. Thank you, New Year, and thank you, booze. Ooh. Oh God, I've fallen off the wagon again. Anyway, for the rest of us, first of all, I want to know what you thought about this week's episode of Doctor Who. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section, whichever website you're watching this on, and I will get back to you shortly, either directly in the comment section themselves or towards the end of the following video. Also, tell me what you thought about this series as a whole. I will be doing my series review in the next coming week or so, so if you want to be shout out or want to share your opinions of it, good, bad, indifferent, things you may think would improve the series, things that you wish they really would stop doing, whatever it is, let me know and you'll get read out on the show. As for me and this week's episode of Doctor Who, well, it certainly was a Chris Chibnall episode, there's no getting away from that. It has all the oily fingerprints of the BBC writer's room all over it, and it has a fair few faults within it. And if you're someone like the many people who was just waiting, willing, with bated breath for our first Dalek episode of the new run of Doctor Who, and you're pissed off by this, you know what, I can kind of see why you might be, but, you know, I enjoyed it. So you know what, I'm going to give you, dear viewer, a genuine, bona fide Chris Hall, Hall's right back, get out of pissy jail card. You want to get pissy and antsy about this episode? Fine, by all means, leave it in the comment section. It'd be interesting to go through some of the things that have been said about it. I don't agree with quite a lot of the criticisms for this episode, though with some of them, I think you're being a little bit too kind, because holy crap. Look, as I said, I enjoyed this episode for the most part, but I did have a bit to drink before it, so the big time action stuff really did land to me, because at that point in the evening it was pretty much just a case of me sitting about an inch or so from the television going, ooh, pretty colours. Aside from that, you know, content-wise in terms of the emotional stuff, yes, it was there, yes, it kind of hit, but by God, do we really need more episodes of characters sat around a kitchen table telling us their emotions? I enjoyed the episode. I keep having to say this to almost remind myself that I did, because there's a great deal within it to actually pick apart and enjoy. I liked the new angle that they did with the Daleks this time round. There's really only so many times you can have an episode which is just a Dalek driving about and shooting people, or a bunch of Daleks coming up with some big convoluted plan only for the Doctor to appear and foil it at the last minute. This was an interesting take on it, and a lot of people have been saying, oh, it's just like Venom, it's just like Venom, it's just like Venom, but you know, it worked for me. It was a different way to take the monster, and it was almost like a nice little inversion. Usually you only ever see the Daleks in their suit, and that's only the time that they're a threat. This particular type of Dalek is a threat in and out of its suit, probably more of a threat in its suit than outside of it. And it was able to do some genuinely creepy and weird and interesting things with it. It managed to create an episode which, for my money, is an interesting take on the Dalek formula. Like I say, there's only so many times that you can just have Daleks with a plot or Daleks killing people before it starts to run its course. And the fact that here we are almost 60 years into this series' run and they can still do things that are different, I can certainly say for that with this episode, than just doing everything that's been done before, I think is fine. My issues, of course, is the fact that I think this episode echoes Dalek a little bit too much. And of course, very few episodes are ever going to live up to that level of quality. But it still presented a Dalek that was a genuine threat. It was a creature that was able to foil the Doctor's plans pretty much at every step. And that's something I think has been lacking in Doctor Who as a general rule of it. The Doctor pretty much comes up with a big plan to foil the alien, and there's no real thing for it to work from. There's nothing that it can really well, catch the Doctor out on. The Doctor comes up with their magic plan, their magic words, their big solution, their potion to defeat the bad guy, and it works. There's never much of a to and fro. There's never a, let's try this thing, oh, it didn't work, let's try that thing, that didn't work. I think that the whole microwave thing was a little bit too on the nose. I think that how they set it up and how they present it in the episode, yeah, you knew it was going to come into significance at some point in the future, but Hell, there's been more ridiculous ways for a Dalek to be offed in this show. This is a show in which the Daleks have been killed by Dracula and Frankenstein's monster. They've been killed by a robotic Anne Robinson. So them being killed by some cobbled together weapon, I think, works, or at least it works for the shell because that monster still inexplicably survived. Of course, it wasn't an episode that was totally 100% fantastic. Like I say, I think at this point I am just done, just totally done with the interpersonal drama stuff, which is really, really weird because it's something that I do enjoy. I think it's for the most part well written and performatively. We'll talk about that later, but sometimes, it can be very well done. But I feel that the problem with this episode and as much of the past series is that the episodes themselves rely on them too much. Too much of the drama is just between two characters talking, these smaller moments, which, whilst I do enjoy them, it's almost like you're eating one of those chocolate cakes, one of those double, triple chocolate cakes. After the first couple mouthfuls, it tastes alright, but after the fourth or fifth, then it starts to feel a little bit sickly and a bit too heavy, and that's what these moments feel like for me. It's fine to do it once every few episodes, or just to do a moment in an episode. With this one, it was for every scene that you had with the Dalek doing something sinister and terrible, you had maybe 2 or 3 scenes of people just sat around a table talking to one another. And whilst this is something that Chris Chibnall is very adept at doing and dealing with, I feel that going forward we have to have less of it. I will discuss this in greater detail in the performance section, but it's something that I feel that, particularly given some of the things that happen in this week's episode, that you really can't keep doing this because it's just going to get people done with the series. Maybe not in quite the same way as people were done with Stephen Moffat, but still it is going to become a case of, can we get back to the Cybermen now? I mean, time's going on, Mr. Chibnall, I'd rather see some more excitement and amazement, but, whatever. The other issue that I had with this episode was the humour within it. Yes, the sudden moment of that family looking bewildered and beguiled and totally confused because the Wi-Fi is down. Oh, and that means we're going to have a conversation. Ooh, hilarious. There's a scene that obviously came out of the writer's room. Holy crap, that one really didn't work for anything. I didn't find it funny, and I think that given everything that happened prior to and after it, it stuck out like a sore thumb. It totally ruined the pace of the scene that it was sat within, and I don't think it was terribly funny. The other issue, and I don't really think it's an issue, I think it's something that's been overblown, is the absence of UNIT. Yes, they did it for a gag. They did, the funding's been withdrawn for UNIT. Oh, ho, ho. And of course, the fan response has been, oh my god, Chris Chibnall's destroyed UNIT. He's gone too far. He needs replacing now. Yeah, because they obviously killed off UNIT. There's never going to be UNIT in Doctor Who ever again. We're never going to see UNIT, everybody. It's certainly not going to come back at some point in the next series or in a spin-off or any kind of Big Finish books or audiobooks. Yeah. UNIT is definitely gone forever. They've been written out. They've been destroyed. We're never going to see them, are we? No. UNIT is definitely gone. Just like the Master is definitely gone. We're never going to see the Master again. We're never going to see the Daleks either because they killed that one Dalek and it was sending out a text message to all its buddies saying, let's go to Earth, YOLO, We're never going to see the Daleks again. Oh, the Cybermen. We've not even talked about the Cybermen, We're never going to see them again. UNIT definitely gone. Forever. Holy crap. They make one little joke. A joke that I admit I am a little bit 50-50 on, but, everyone's freaking out about it. Do you really think they're never going to have UNIT in this show again? Are you a fucking imbecile? God damn it. The reason why that bit's in the episode is just so that they can turn around and for everybody that's going to turn around and say, why don't they just call UNIT? There's a killer Dalek. Why not call in UNIT? Call in UNIT. Let's bring Oswin back, or Osgood, or whomever the fuck it was. In-universe fangirl. Let's bring her back, and then she can irritate the piss out of me with every single moment she's on screen. Then we can have Kate Stewart in it, who could be as much of a non-entity in this episode as she's been in every single episode of Doctor Who that she's featured in. Hooray! But of course, they're not writing out UNIT. They're going to be back. They're going to be back. Guarantee it. They'll either be back in next series or hell, maybe there's going to be a spin-off UNIT series or a UNIT special this year. Because let's face it, we need something Doctor Who-y on television. So why not that? You might get that. Or maybe just a spin-off audiobook or something like that. They're coming back, for Christ's sake. Aside from that, within the episode itself, I think that the look of the Dalek, of it cobbling itself together, is perfect fine. It works, it's great. For now, I don't want this to be the new look of the Daleks, because for me, whilst I kind of like the scrap heap challenge kind of look to it. It looks a little bit too much like the Daleks we've had before, and if we're going to have Daleks in the new series, I'd rather that they look genuinely different to what we've had before, and not just, oh yeah, let's reuse Dalek prop 37B, wheel it out of storage, Ted, here we go. You know, something a little bit different and new, but I'm starting to get into waffling territory. For the most part, I did enjoy this week's episode. I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail in the overview, but now, let us go into the performance section. Oh dear. So the performance section. This section is pretty self-explanatory. I have to admit that outside Jodie Whittaker, I didn't really find much else within this episode that was terribly stellar to me. That's not to say this episode had bad performances within it, or bad character writing, or bad character acting. I have to admit and put my hands up, yes, I had a bit to drink to it, so all the character interpersonal moments didn't quite land for me in quite the same way as they would do in another week. That's just because of the fact that I was just sat there giggling to myself and trying to sober up whilst watching this exciting Doctor Who adventure. I think that Jodie Whittaker's Doctor is starting to turn a corner for me in a good way. I like the idea that the personality of her Doctor is that she wants to be everyone's friend, she wants to be happy, she wants to be personal, she wants to get on with people. I think that really works with her Doctor and her personality for it. And it's really refreshing for her to be so different to what we've had before. She isn't just David Tennant Mark III or David Tennant with tits. She's her own unique character, and I can really get behind that. It's something I thoroughly enjoy. For everybody else, I think everybody else did the job amicably well. The moment where Ryan is giving his speech to his dad in the Greasy Spoon Cafe, Ryan's really good at performing with his eyes. I mean, he just looks so sorrowful and somber and sad. Even though it wasn't quite reflected in his voice as much, mostly due to the fact that, yeah, he's putting on an accent I don't think works for him. But, you know, you could get something out of that. And I am kind of baffled that so many people have just watched it blankly and neutrally. I admit that there's way too much of the sitting down and talking moments, but there was weight to this episode. There's just some genuine emotion to it. Even me, as someone who watched it fairly inebriated, was able to get something from it. I was able to enjoy the performances of them that there were. My big problem with the episode, if we are going to talk performatively, is I think that the cast was way too big for this episode. You had, 6 characters in this episode, and the Doctor, making it 7. You had the Doctor, her 3 companions, and you had Ryan's dad, you had the 2 archaeologists as well. There's one moment where you got like 6 people in the TARDIS. That's way too many. I know some people have been really wanting the whole TARDIS crew thing to be a thing again, back from the era in the 80s, but there's a reason why we haven't done this since the Peter Davison era. It's because for me, it just doesn't work. By the sheer economy of writing, you're going to have characters that just don't do anything. Yaz was just there in this episode yet again. As much as I enjoy the character, as much as I enjoy the actor, I think that you desperately need to do something with her. Otherwise, there's very little need for her to be in the show at all. And looking forward at where this series may go in the next year or so, I think that when it comes to the small interpersonal moments, have kind of run their course. If only for the fact that the character arcs of 2 of our main characters are kind of done now. We've done the bit of them getting over the death of I forget her name, Hope, or whatever her name is, Graham's ex-wife, Ryan's grandmother. You know, we've done that stuff now. We've got over that stuff. And now we've done stuff with the absent father. What do you then do with these 2 characters? Where do you go from them? And how do you wrap their story up in this series as a whole? That's a big question going forward, because you can't just have these moments the same that you've had them before. Particularly with Ryan, he's made peace with the fact that his grandmother's no longer around and that he's kind of made up with his dad. So then what do you do with him? Same with Graham. He's kind of made peace with the fact that Ryan's dad is an arsehole, an absent arsehole, and started to deal with the death of his ex-wife. What do you then do with those 2 characters? You can't have them not do anything, and how do you write them out? That's another question. I know that we shouldn't really be thinking of these, but where do these characters end up once their run on this show is done? Do we do like we've done with pretty much every companion in this run of Doctor Who, where you either kill them off or consign them to a fate worse than death? You lock them away in an alternate universe, you fill their mind with so much time lord nonsense that if they even so much as think about a Dalek, their head will explode, or they're trapped in the past, never to return, or they're they're doomed to die and they're effectively a living corpse, or they're now a Cyberman or a living bit of oil. You know, do we want to have those kind of dark endings, or can we just have them say, "I'm done"? Which would work better? I think that just having them say "I'm done" would work more, because I genuinely don't think that the way that you add weight and dramatic impact to this show or to these characters is to kill them off. Tension to me isn't watching a Dalek murdering as many people as they can on screen, or having the Doctor's companion at gunpoint. For me, what is tension and drama is watching these everyday characters deal with this shit, trying to get their head around it and dealing with the impact of what seeing these things has on them. Almost like when Tegan left the show, the reason she left, her character left, was because she'd seen the Daleks, she'd seen some heavy shit and it wasn't sitting well for her. She'd just seen people dying left, right and centre, and the Doctor not really being able to do anything about it. And all that she can really do is either keep going on this thing and watching more innocent people die, or try and leave and hope that her mental health can recover from it. And you've not had anything quite like that in Doctor Who. The closest you got to that was at the end of Kill the Moon, where it felt as though maybe Clara was going to leave at that point. I think that would have been a perfect ending for her to leave. You know, she's just so pissed off and done with the Doctor's bullshit that she has to leave. I don't think you'd get something quite that heavy with this particular Doctor, not because I think that this performance or this writing of the Doctor is light or anything, but it's a different thing. The reasons why these characters will end up leaving is just a simple fact of them maybe outgrowing the Doctor. Of course, that's a discussion for another point. Like I say, performatively, fine. There's nothing out about this episode that stuck out to me as being overly wooden or not quite working properly. I think the problem is the fact there's just too many smaller character moments. It feels as though these moments are just there to fill time. Again, it's like chocolate cake. The first few mouthfuls of it taste great, but after that it starts to feel a little bit too heavy, a little bit too sickly. And it's after maybe the third or fourth scene of Graham and Aaron sitting there and talking to each other that I just have to say, right, can we just get back to the Dalek, please? Can we have a little bit more scenes with that? Even if it's just them driving up and down the road where the Bad Boys theme music goes off in the background, I'll have that. Can we have something a little bit more adventurous, please? Of course, that lays into my problems with this series as a whole, which I'll discuss in a future video. But now let us go into the overview. And so, the overview, what I thought about the episode as a whole, and as a whole, I did enjoy it. I like this new look and this new invention of the Daleks. It will be interesting to see what the final look will be for them going forward. But for what it was, I enjoyed it. Whilst it had echoes of Dalek, and for my money, I don't think it's as good as Dalek, it certainly had enough threat and adventure within it to make it enjoyable. I don't think the jokes within the episode landed at all. The joke about UNIT being defunded, I think, has caused more controversy than I think anybody was ever really imagining. Because people, it seems these days, are fucking imbeciles. Because, yeah, definitely, the UNIT's never coming back. Never, ever, ever again. And just watching the comments on Twitter, just people being like, "Where's the Dalek? Where's the Dalek? Where's the Dalek? I don't see a Dalek. I just see a squid monster. Where's the Dalek? Where's the Dalek? Where's the Dalek?" For nearly every fucking minute of the episode until the Dalek appears, and then they're all clapping hands like trained seals, like, "I saw the Dalek and I clapped." Oh! God fucking damn it. Yeah, like I say, if you were pissed off by this episode, you're fully within your right to, if you just wanted a adventurous Doctor Who episode with a Dalek in it. But that's just the way the story has changed now, where the series has changed now. It's more about the small interpersonal moments between our characters than it is necessarily about the high-octane, high-adventure stuff that we've had before. And I don't think that one is inherently better than the other. But even still, I think that this episode could have done with a little bit more adventure and a little bit less sitting around and talking to one another. You know, you have a story set across different time periods. You have all these characters in medieval times going off to different locations all around the world, and then you have this adventure happening in the modern day, and then you're going off into space towards the end of the episode. Yet you're only really doing stuff in the modern day, and even then you're in a science lab, and then you're in a farm, and then you're in GCHQ. You could have done a lot more with this episode. But at that point, you're going down to, oh, I would like to see a Dalek fight a Cyberman Iron Man, Borg Man, or something. You're getting into fan theory, death battle bollocks, which, you know, that's a whole other thing. I think that this episode is enjoyable. I think that maybe this would have worked better as a series finale than the series finale we got, and I am glad that I held off from doing my series review until this one had been done, because I think that it is, for good or for worse, indicative of my feelings as a whole for this series. And I am interested to see where they go with it in a year's time, because that's where we are now. There are going to be no episodes of Doctor Who this year. Maybe there'll be a spin-off in a similar kind of vein to Class that will appear, because let's face it, Class just seemed to will itself into existence. So, hey, maybe that's where we'll find out what happened to Unit. They'll get their own spin-off show or something like that, or we'll get Series 2 of Class. Oh, Christ, could you imagine that? Oh, bloody hell. Well, at this point, they'll all be in university, and whether or not their friend is still a rock monster, we'd have to see, but whatever. Be interested to see what happens Doctor Who-wise as far as this series is concerned. I have plans for what to do with the time shift either way, but, you know, we'll see. I did enjoy this episode, for the most part. Humour aside, overuse of the drama stuff, the family drama stuff, but aside from that, it was fine. Nothing bad about it that made me pull my hair out and scream and shout. But then I was drunk at the time. So take that as you will. I enjoyed it. Looking online, I think a fair few people did. Some people who didn't, for whatever reason, they're perfectly within their right to. But, you know, like I say, I think the notion that this episode was totally devoid of any kind of substance whatsoever, be that a motive or action or threat, is just kind of baffling to me. But you know what? Different strokes for different folks, and that's it. The next video from me should be the series review of this particular series. Might be a series review from a previous series. I haven't made my mind up yet. But you know what, we'll see. It's going to be a little bit of a time before, you know, I can get to those kind of things, because, you know, I've pretty much been making a video now every week now for the past, well, since Doctor Who came back on air. So maybe I need a week off or something, but we'll see. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Time Shift. Let me know about what you thought about this week's episode of Doctor Who and the series as a whole. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings, good, bad, positive, negative, indifferent, or do you just want to tell me what time of day it is in your particular part of the world? Do so in the comment section below, whichever website or web zone you're watching this on. And be sure to like, fave, subscribe, and click the bell for more videos from me in the future. Sorry, my tickly throat was starting to come on again. It's been blinging for ages. But that's it from me. I hope you have a very fantastic new year, whatever you're doing it with. I hope you have an enjoyable one, and if it isn't enjoyable, any horrible things that happen to you are only short-lived, and you can find perfect peace, happiness, and joy within your heart. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.